a brand new day to do 55 minutes of current and relevant business talks. That's Business Morning. I'm Ini John Mekwa. The holidays are over, so I'm sure you're back to work now. Let's make money. Well, let's start from the global space now to tell you that oil prices edged up on Tuesday as market participants are waiting the outcome of the U.S.-China talks that could pave the way for easing trade tensions and improve fuel demand. So we see for this morning, it's a gain for Brent, 12 cents, and that's 0.24%, $67.16. So we've seen a steady movement upwards for Brent in the last couple of sessions from 60, now we see 67. Yesterday it was about 66. And for WTI of the United States, it's also up 0.15% at $65.42 a barrel. Today is day 2 of the talks in London between the US and China, brokered by the UK. And so we expectation is that it to be good news. Now, on Monday, Brent had risen to 67. That's the highest since April 28, buoyed by the prospect of that talks, the trade deal talks. US-China trade talks were set to continue for a second day in London as top officials aim to ease tensions that have expanded from tariffs to rare earth curbs, risking global supply chain disruptions and slower growth. US President Donald Trump has said on Monday that the talks were going well, and he was only getting good reports from his team in London. We hope it stays that way. Well, the trade deal between the US and China could support global economic outlook and boost demand for commodities, including oil. Elsewhere, Iran said it would soon hand a counter-proposal for a nuclear deal to the United States in response to a US offer that Tehran deems unacceptable, while the Trump sides remain at odds over whether the country would be allowed to continue enriching uranium on Iranian soil. Iran is the third largest producer among members of the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, and any easing of US sanctions on Iran would allow it to export more oil, weighing on global crude prices. Now, still around the oil space, but here in Nigeria, the Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission says that operators in the upstream petroleum industry have formally applied for the conversion of their petroleum prospect licenses to petroleum mining licenses amid imminent deadline. I think it's 27th of this month. A statement from the chief executive of the NUPRC, Mr. Gbenga Komolafe, says 40 PPLs were at different stages of exploration, appraisal, and pre-development while their applications were under review. According to the NUPRC, the licenses, which were granted to different companies on June 28, 2022, would expire 27th of this month. And I'm sure you had a lot of conversations about some companies that seem to be getting favor and raising brows. The African Export-Import Bank, Afreximbank, has finally reacted to Fitch's recent downgrade of its long-term issuer default rating to BBB- from BBB, which reflects higher solvency risks. According to the bank, Fitch's negative outlook decision is hinged on the erroneous view in some quarters that the treaty establishing Afreximbank, executed by its 53 participating African states, can be violated by the bank without consequences. Afreximbank clarifies that the bank establishment agreement is a treaty entered into by and among all participating states and between the participating state and the bank. Accordingly, the Afrexim would like to reaffirm that it is not participating in debt restructuring negotiations related to any of its member countries. To do so, they say, would be inconsistent with the bank's establishment treaty. The treatment of its loans and other activities is governed by the treaty and not by classifications created outside its framework. Afreximbank says its financial resilience, robust governance, and unwavering commitment to excellence and to Africa are critical to the delivery of its mandate. The bank remains committed to supporting its member countries in navigating their economic challenges, the bank says. While still on Afrexim, Africa's total external debt is expected to surpass $1.3 trillion by the end of this year and increase gradually to 2029. This is according to the bank's half-year report. A breakdown of the debt concentration reveals that Nigeria, South Africa, and Egypt collectively hold more than one-third of the continent's total external debt stock. Other major debt holders include Morocco, Mozambique, Sudan, and Kenya. However, the report notes that the trajectory of Africa's foreign debt has begun to stabilize amid changing global financial conditions and evolving domestic fiscal strategies. Tech enthusiasts have canvassed for both government and private sector support for players in the tech ecosystem in the Niger Delta. This was part of conversations at the NDDC's Tech Expo in Port Harcourt, the capital of Rivers State. Different panelists took turns in outlining the challenges faced by players in the space while also preferring solutions to such issues.
It's day 2 of the Port Harcourt Tech Expo, backed by the Niger Delta Development Commission, NDDC. The event, holding in the Garden City, has in attendance tech enthusiasts, government officials, officials from top tech companies, and students, among others. Speakers at the event touch on the need to embrace new technologies, foster indigenous innovation, and the integration of artificial intelligence to improve all fields of human endeavors.
Just like I will always say, a man without principles is useless. A business without strategy is dead. A business without vision is as good as dead. The likes of Sony, the likes of Canon, saw that where they were going to is digital photography, and so they slowed down and then they started adapting to that disruptive technology that was coming, and they kept being afloat. But Kodak kept doing this. Before he tried to do a U-turn to adapt to digital photography, it was too late.
Entrepreneurship is the persistent pursuit of opportunities without regards to scarce resources that are controlled by industry-related experience and founders' choices. And that is why you can see Downgrade has a monopoly, because he was able to create a market. And that is why you can see Bua has a monopoly, because he was able to create market. Everyone that creates market has a monopoly, and that is the index of innovation.
You can just ask the AI, okay, I'm looking for a law or a case law relating to murder. And it will bring, and you can even choose the court. You can say, I need a judgment of the Supreme Court. I need a judgment of the Court of Appeal on this particular principle of law. And everything will just come out. So tech is doing a lot in the justice system, but we still need more solutions.
A former official of the NDDC, Dr. Dax George Kelly, emphasizes the importance of the Tech Expo and why it's imperative that events like this lead to the cross-pollination of ideas.
The Port Harcourt Tech Expo for me is a big thing that is going to be as strong as the Offshore Technological Conference that we used to have in Houston. I think this is a big thing for Port Harcourt. This is a big thing for tourism even in Rivers State. Now you see a lot of ideas coming up. You see a lot of people showcasing their technologies and what they have been able to create. You see a lot of different tech giants. Technology is the way to go. We must not depend on fossil fuel in Nigeria here. Technology is the way to salvage Nigeria from poverty.
Technology remains an important enabler of efficiency, easier access to information, and fosters creativity and innovation in various aspects of life.
Well, I guess technology is only as good as the solutions that they give. And today we're looking at the adoption of ICT by small businesses, among others. We'll be having this conversation with Dr. Delioye. He's the president of the Nigerian Association of Chambers of Commerce, Industry, Mines, and Agriculture. That's Nasima. Joins us from our Abuja studio. Dr. Oye, good morning and welcome to the program.
Good morning.
Great. So, I mean, we just talked about technology there and the adoption of ICT by small businesses. But before we get to that, I saw a report by SMEDAN that over 90,000 jobs were created in the first quarter of this year. Working closely with small businesses, What's the reality of these numbers? It sounds good to an extent, but what's your perspective and what's the reality?
Well, for a large country like Nigeria, I think that number is small. I don't know the sources or the basis under which the studies were carried out. But what I would say that for a country like Nigeria, we need to develop and increase more businesses for us to get out of poverty. The problem we already have immediately after the World Bank IMF last meeting was that by 2027, there will be 56% of Nigerians going to poverty, despite the very huge work already done by the government on the fiscal reforms and the ability to even have a trade surplus in 2024 of about $6 billion. That money doesn't mean anything to someone that is hungry. And that is why government needs to be more broad in its approach by involving the private sector, using their ideas to develop policies. This is the only way to increase and also optimize the opportunities available locally. We need to mobilize our local resources. You can see what is happening now in the oil and gas industry. And the recent interview by Dangote that given the right policy, is going to make an announcement this week to show that it's ready to invest more. So one government is predictable, one the policies are consistent, and we're able to mobilize and listen to our people who have invested in the economy. That is the game changer. So the 90,000 is just a child play compared to the opportunities that are available and the need to move our people out of poverty.
So some people say the way to go is ICT technology to help scale up at a shorter time. How is the adoption of ICT by small businesses in the country?
Well, Nigeria is the fintech capital of Africa, but we have not seen a conscious government effort to actually optimize that sector. I know the Honorable Minister for Digital Technology is doing his best, but most of the policies are still office-based. What we need to do, there's an investment agency called the Nigeria Investment Promotion Council. Most of what government is doing is in silos. That office ought to be able to optimize this by presenting it to the private sector so that we can all tap in. But if you go to that office today, you will observe that they don't have much information about what various ministries are doing, in what level of technology they are adapting, what platforms they are doing. I know government had made an effort trying to build platforms, but you need to let everyone know what you are doing. And the only way you can do that is by using your own agency that will be created as a one-stop shop. But what is happening, every agency is doing things at their level. So we need all that information as private sector to be able to know what technology to deploy and how we can use the technology only available within government to optimize business. So they need more coordination, and they also need to coordinate with the private sector. They should work with organizations like NASIMA, Manufacturer Association, SMIDAN, NASMI, NASG, so that all of us can have access. We can actually, by press of a button in our office, we can tap into that pool. But what is happening, everybody is working in silos. So we need to optimize. We need to work together. We need to work with the investment regulation agencies, which have been created by government, so that all the various IPAs in the states, so that everyone can go to one place and get all the information that is necessary to enhance technology and also to use it to optimize business. Like you said, technology is the way to go. Because if you look at what has happened in the last few years, those countries that have not moved with technology are likely to be doing things at subsistence level. But you can use the AI and several other options now to do so much. But we need to have a central pool through our investment agencies already created by government to use them as a catalyst for growth.
So which of the investment agencies would you suggest to be a go-to, the pool that you're talking about, and how do you think this process can start? Because as you noted, I mean, there are so many things going on, but it does seem like it's not coming together.
For every foreign investor coming to Nigeria, their first port of call is the Nigeria Investment Promotion Council. And the states also have various IPAs. But what we've seen is that every part of government, they want to take credit for their efforts. It's not necessary. It's like a football match. You need to work together and also coordinate with the private sector and those that have invested within the country. That's what I'm saying. Whatever is being done at the digital ministry needs to be domiciled with the NIPC so that all of us can have access to all that is available within Nigeria. It may surprise you to know that Ministry of Finance, several ministries, even the customs, they have very huge digital platforms. This is still being kept like a secret. If you are not involved in import and export, you may not know the extent of digitalization that's happening with the customs. We have a single window which we are trying to put up now, and I've already said it that that one needs to have more private sector involvement, and I want to commend the DG who recently sent us a letter telling us that they're inviting us as NASIMA to be part of it. But that thing needs to be domiciled, also even in the NIPC, because that is where the trading actually takes place. So what I'm saying is you need to enhance, empower, and give the NIPC as an overriding power as created by the law that set it up, that it should be the gateway for foreign direct investment in Nigeria. If we do that, we will see that everyone will know where to go and how to proceed. That is all I'm saying, that we should use our institutions already established to enhance what we are currently doing. The idea of trying to take credit or every agency trying to help themselves and try to develop their own platform independent or deploy the computer knowledge or whatever ICT is not helpful, because we don't have the necessary resources to replicate the same thing everywhere. We should have a central pool. Every ministry, whatever they are doing in this, should be domiciled with the investment agencies so that we as private sectors can access it easily, and also foreign direct investors who are coming to Nigeria can also have access to that platform. That agency has to be created as a one-stop shop. We should all work with it. This is what I'm saying. And that is the position of the private sector. We want a situation where we can be able to predict government actions and also have access to resources in one place.
So, on the other hand, what's your observation when it comes to adoption of technology, AI, by small businesses? So we do know that, of course, we have the hurdle of infrastructure, internet penetration, costs, also as discouraging factors. But how intentional do you see businesses, especially the small one, in adopting and actually inculcating AI and technology into their everyday operations?
Well, we as a private business organization, we normally train our members and encourage them to deploy technology. Because if you don't have a website or even a WhatsApp platform with your customers, or even if you are into the business of even renting of properties, if you have several tenants, you don't have a platform where you can engage them. You want to still engage them manually. You can't do so much. And it creates complete misinformation when you have to do everything verbal. So we encourage it, and I can tell you, Nigeria is particularly lucky. Even semi-literate, you'll be surprised what they're able to do with computers. So we're already lucky, we're already leading. In fact, we are recently given the digital on the AFCT. Nigeria was appointed as a leader, which our current Honorable Minister for Industry, Trade and Investment is championing on behalf of Mr. President. So we are known for it. We lead in fintech. All the small startups, out of the 8 unicorns in Africa, 5 are from Nigeria, and 4 of them are into fintech. So what I'm trying to say in all this is we already naturally endowed. Even your photo in the 400 is done on the digital space. So what I'm trying to say, we can turn this ability to opportunity if we have a unified position on it, where we can access resources in one platform. This idea of having several platforms working in silos is our challenge. And it's also an opportunity if government can see and use its own institutions already established by law to enhance this. I'm not saying the NIPC should be the operator, but at least they should have access to resources to tell us. If we say we need information on AI that is being done, we should be able to go to NIPC as our one-stop shop to do it. So what I'm saying is, with our experiences and all the travels we've made home and abroad, we've seen that countries use their institutions, especially the NIPC, to drive their investment. But we have in Nigeria, you see different ministers going for investment, promotion, and several. They don't even include or encourage that agency to know what they are doing. So this is what I'm saying. I did a lecture recently on the annual conference, and I observed that most of them, they don't even have information about several sectors within their own states or even at the federal level. And this is a challenge. Because if someone is going to speak for you, is going to encourage investment, you should have access to every information available on every government platform. So we are all ready as private sectors to collaborate with government. And indeed, we are training our members to deploy technology. And if you want to truly scale up, you need to deploy technology. I use AI too for myself, and it kind of cut short the time I used to prepare for meetings or even respond to letters. So we all need to continue to use it, and government need to consciously promote it. So, and I want to thank the Minister of Digital Economy. He's done a whole lot of work. So he's training for 3 million Nigerians on ICT, and say 177,000 has been achieved. And I think we can scale up more if we can take into account the trainings that have been done by organizations like the private sector. I have 100 chambers of commerce under NASIMA, and we have several training centers on this. And we're also even working with our German partners on DVT and several training on this. So what I'm trying to say is we all need to have the information in one place so that we can tap into that pool. So that will optimize whatever we are doing. And it actually will grow the economy too.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Dilo Uye, President of the Nigerian Association of Chambers of Commerce, Industry, Mines and Agriculture, NASIMA, for the work that you do. And of course, we hope that coordination or collaboration between the public and private sector is what we'll see soon. Thank you for your time on the program.
Thank you.
All right, now let's take the conversation further with the Chief Executive Officer of Financial Derivatives Company, Mr. Bismarck Rwani. Mr. Rwani, good morning and welcome to the program. You know I can discuss anything with you. We're just talking about collaboration, this time not among the ministries, but Dr. Oye there is saying that he sees a place where, or a situation where government agencies are working in silos, and that is making the country lose some revenue, especially when it comes to small businesses, adoption of ICT, and maximizing the potential that is available in the private sector.
I agree that government agencies and departments are working in silos to some extent. But the whole idea is about, you talk about implementation, you talk about coordination, but I talk about alignment of goals. That technically speaking, the goals of these agencies have to be aligned, and that is the job of the coordinating minister of the economy, who, in my own judgment, is doing a great job in terms of putting these things together. But it's not easy. Getting agencies in Nigeria to coordinate themselves, and align themselves, it's easier to put 50 flies in a matchbox than to get those agencies to coordinate themselves. But quite frankly, I think the efforts are started, and we'll begin to see the results as they go along. But technically speaking, my view is that the goals have to be aligned, then coordination will follow, and then execution and implementation will be a breeze. So I'm not too bothered about that. But let's just get the basics right, and everything else will follow.
All right, and then we're looking forward to inflation, and we see FDC has already released its forecast, 23.15.
Yes, it's an interesting development. Because let me first clarify that the fact that inflation is declining does not mean that prices are coming down. It only means that prices are increasing at a slower pace than it was in the past. So why are we saying this? Our projections are that inflation will decline by about 0.56 from 23.71 to 23.15. Why? Two things. One is that the exchange rate has stabilized and has actually appreciated marginally. The difference between the power and the official market has narrowed to about 35 to 40 naira. We also seen a drop in the price of diesel and petrol at this time, and we are also beginning to see, we've seen some, not a contraction, but a slowdown in the rate of increase in money supply. So those are the major issues. But generally speaking, logistics costs have reduced. The key drivers, again, lower diesel price, base year effect, and generally speaking, the Hajj and the Hajj period and effect is having a dampening effect on prices. So what we saw in the last month was, and that was before the flood in Mokwa, all right? We saw prices begin to moderate. We saw that the exchange rate stabilized. We saw the price of diesel drop to below 1,000 naira for the first time in many years. And we also saw that the expectations, especially because Dangote was bringing down the price of petrol and diesel, people were no longer scared that the price of logistics costs would be increasing. I think there was some kind of cautious optimism amongst investors, manufacturers, and farmers. That is what has brought down the price. That's what is making us forecast, touch wood, that inflation numbers, which are coming out in another 4 or 5 days, end of this week, will come in at 23.15 using the new methodology.
So, Mr. Rwani, let's talk about food inflation. We know that with the new methodology, the portion or the value given to food as a determinant of the basket has reduced.
Yes.
I don't know what your thoughts are on that, and if you think that, for instance, puts a question mark on the reality of inflation number when it is released.
Yes, it is true that normally when your income declines, that amount you ascribe to food, the weight of food increases. So it is true that the weight of food has gone down from 52 to about 40%, which is what the NBS is using. But the reality is that normally when incomes decline, that amount you give to ascribe to necessities, food, medicines, and education will actually increase. So, but now that is the reality that they have brought it down to 40%, and we have to live with that. And the reality is that there's an expectation that incomes will rise. If income rises and output increases, then it is possible that 40% for food basket becomes 40% food weight of food becomes realistic. But that's the issue is that when we are comparing likes with likes, it is important to note that we have the major components and major drivers of inflation being one, the price of petrol, two, the price of diesel, three, the exchange rate pass-through, and four, money supply growth. All of these things seem to be showing some modest moderation, and therefore it is possible that inflation begins to actually decelerate. But the deceleration we are talking about is only 0.56%. It's nothing compared to others. In other words, when you see a country like Ghana having such a sharp deceleration in price, when you see it happening in Kenya, when you see it happening in South Africa, when you see that even happening in the European Union, it means that when you have this deceleration, part of it is based on the momentum, national, global momentum, part of it is due to the specific policies, and also part of it is because things are getting slightly better.
So is this sustainable, this, well, downward trend that we're expecting on inflation? Is this the beginning of the drop we've been waiting for, or anything can happen?
No, we are still vulnerable to shocks. And quite frankly, the global price of crude, just as we saw just now, has gone up to $67 a barrel. At that price, that is the basic cost of crude, which is refined into petrol. We cannot say that categorically that the price of petrol in Nigeria will continue to decline, because that way we'll not be able to sustain it. So there are many unknowns and imponderables. One, the China-US talks, which will have an effect on global trade and tariffs. We've seen the value of the dollar. The dollar has actually depreciated against a basket of currencies. Against the pound, it's as low as 1.34. That is, you need $1.34 to buy a pound, and this should be as low as high as $1.25. So what I'm saying in effect is that you manage those things which are within your control, and you try to just try and manage, try and work around the other things which are outside your control. But generally speaking, the Nigerian economy seems to be limping its way out of the current crisis, just limping. I'll use that word for now. Will it be a sustainable quarter? I think I'm not sure, but all I do know is that if the GDP numbers are going to come out, they're going to be stronger than we expected. And if inflation next month, that is the month for the month of June, comes out and it stays low, then I can say categorically that we will end Q2 and probably start Q3 on a stronger footing than we have today.
Well, Mr. Rwani, it's still planting season, so the expectation is that domestic commodities prices continues upsurge.
Yes, definitely. We have the problem with tomatoes because of the tomato Ebola. We've seen pepper up; those are the perishables, and we see the Mokwa effect, which is the major is the link between the north and the south, and the food basket and the non-food, the bread basket and the food consuming areas. So we are going to see that knock-on effect on prices. But generally speaking, because the exchange rate, which is the critical factor price in Nigeria, is stable. As a matter of fact, it has dropped below 1,600. That is, it's now 1,598. Because people have just come back from the Hajj and they're selling their dollars into the market. We expect the Naira to depreciate a little bit in the next few days. We've seen the stock market, as you said it, MTN is at an all-time high, which is an indication of investor optimism. So generally speaking, there's an air of cautious and optimism as against speculative optimism. I think touch wood, we think that things begin to improve. But I want to warn and caution that the fact that economic parameters and data points are moving in the right direction does not mean that the people are feeling the effect of that. There's hunger in the land. There's a lot of consternation, a lot of fear that this improvement is not sustainable. And also, there's a lot of fear that the income distribution and opportunity distribution, there's income inequality, opportunity inequality, and there's a big gap between those who have and those who do not have, and between what the government is doing and the impact that is being felt by the people. So there's a lot of work to be done in terms of making sure that this economy has the absorptive capacity to take whatever injections are coming in, and also to manage the effect to ensure that people from all segments of the country are enjoying the benefits and the tangible effects of reform. Reform without policy change, without institutional reform, is meaningless.
All right, Mr. Bismarck Rwani, thank you so much always for sharing your findings, research with us here on the program. Mr. Bismarck Rwani is the Chief Executive Officer of Financial Derivatives Company. You have a great day ahead.
Thank you for having me.
Let's take a break. When we come back in Drive, they have something to tell us. We'll hear that here on Business Morning after the break. Stay with us, please. You're welcome back. It's still Business Morning right here on Channels Television. As promised, we're having a conversation now with InDrive and have right here in the studio Nigeria's country representative for InDrive Nigeria, Dimeji Timothy is right here. Hi, Dimeji. Good morning and welcome to the program.
Good morning, ma'am. Thank you.
Well, I think I was expecting you guys before the festivities because I know you guys always have some packages for the holiday, but you didn't come. You were too busy having fun.
Nah, I mean, it was work. We have something going on actually for passengers.
You have your limousine. There was something like that.
No, it was actually a G-Wagon this time around.
Oh, you see what I'm saying?
But that was earlier in April. But this time around, we have something for our passengers going to church and the likes, So that's something different. But we always have something up for our users.
I know, right? Now you're asking for a law enforcement portal. What's that about?
Actually, we are providing a law enforcement portal to help us collaborate with the police. Safety being a collaborative effort starts with everyone. But based on the data that we have and our interaction with users, we identified a gap. And that is what the portal seeks to close. So data protection law prohibits us as data processors of users from sharing it with third party, except required by the law enforcement agency in the cases of addressing safety concerns, incidents, and so on and so forth. And in our effort, because we're very we're proactive about safety, which is something I hope to discuss much later, we identified the gap that exists between users being able to pursue cases when they have to with the police. So let's give an instance. You have an incident and you want to press charges or you want that to be investigated. To be able to get the needed data, you cannot request it through the support platform. You need the police to request it. But because of how fragmented the system is, there is no central portal. We created this portal that allows us, as a key stakeholder in transportation and concerns for our passengers, to be able to communicate directly with the police. So you report a case to us. We advise that you report to the police in the case of having to pursue an investigation. For us to be able to support this investigation, we need to provide valuable details about the trip or an incident.
So you guys are running this portal.
Yes.
But you invite the law enforcement where the passengers only come in if they have a complaint.
Absolutely, that's correct. Okay. So it's to improve on our already existing safety protocols. So we have various safety protocols, from sharing your ride to having an in case of emergency number to calling the police, even on like an emergency number to call the police on the application. But in the case of an incident now happening and you need to pursue, there's a need to connect our platform with the police directly, because we can't share user data to an end user. So that is where the law enforcement portal comes in. So we create the portal so that we can collaborate appropriately with the police and every law enforcement agency that supports users in general.
Okay, so this portal, you have the collaboration of the police already.
Absolutely.
On the portal.
Yes.
And then your passengers or your clients now have access to it once they become your passengers.
The portal is only open to law enforcement to make the request.
Okay, make the request for the data of the passenger.
Yes.
So at what point does the passenger come in?
So let's take a flow.
Okay.
All right. First, we have a proactive stance to safety. So that is why in the case of, one of the things we say is, if a situation is being watched, the likelihood of a safety incident occurring is reduced. So in the case that you forget to pick your driver based on rating to reduce an incident, or you forgot to share your ride and there is an incident, maybe a theft, and you need to investigate or report, right? When you report to us and you want the driver's detail to be investigated, we can't provide the detail to you. So when you report to the police and you have a police report, it is rerouted through the portal from the police station.
When you go physically to the police to report,
so
then
they
the police
make the request to us.
Go to you
through
on
the
portal.
Yes, and we provide the detail to the police through the same portal. So it aggregates all those information to the police so that they can support the user in this case.
Sounds interesting, but I mean, when you mention the police and then you talk about technology and all of that, I know you know what I mean. So I just want to know the reality of this. Have you been using it? Have you gotten enough cooperation from the police? Have they been responding? Do you have cases resolved, or this is? I know it's a launch. You just launched it.
Yes. So so we've been supporting the police in investigation, but we needed a better system to improve. So as I said, this is a system to improve on what is already existing. So it makes it easier and reduce the fragmentation. So first off, part of our plans, which is ongoing, is to collaborate with strategic places where our users can get the necessary support. So we identify places where we have most of our operations, and the police stations where they get the support are not more than a particular kilometers apart. So it kind of puts everything together in one place. So that's like a critical thing that we've done. But there are always room for improvement. We definitely are watching what is the resolving rate, like the success rate of these things, that would now give
also
us
to
insight.
cover abuse, room for abuse,
definitely.
and
So
all
it
of
gives
that.
us insight as to how it will be improved. But for now, it's an improved version of what exists presently. And we believe that, before we launch, because we put in a lot of resources into building this, and we strongly believe that, it's data-backed, definitely generate the type of result we're looking for to improve in response to safety incidents.
Yeah, because, I was just asking myself, so what do you gain from this? Actually, it might cost you a bit more, in running it and keeping it effective, but I guess you win the confidence of your customers and what goes out and, but, okay, please go ahead.
Absolutely. Presently, we have moved from market entry to the most used platform, and this, the safety cannot be something we are reacting to. We are proactive about it. So it's a matter of importance for us to ensure users not only feel safe, they understand how to use our platform in a safe manner. So that is why it's an investment. We don't want to react. We've seen what it costs for our passengers, for our drivers in terms of safety, but putting those things in place ensures that we reach our goal of addressing mobility concerns and safety concerns before they become an issue. So that's why it's an proactive investment for us.
And you have trainings for the police and all of that?
Absolutely. So as part, because this is it's a rollout of different things, we keep rolling out features. For example, after this particular feature, the most recent one is a feature that disallows courier drivers from canceling orders until they delivered. Now that's something that we just tested and launched like 2 weeks ago, because as I said, safety is priority. But what we are also doing as part of this rollout is our second safety summit. So we had a safety summit last year after we've launched a safety suite that's focused on user education and also new features that are first in the market. One of it is the fact that a user has the opportunity to pick a driver based on his rating. And I'll explain how that is a proactive safety feature. So if you find the way InDrive works, when you place an order, you have opportunity to pick as many drivers as possible that bids. And you pick them based on their price, on their rating, and the likes. Now, if you find a driver who's done about 1,000 trips and has a 4.9 rating, the likelihood that you're going to get an excellent service from that driver is very high, right? And it reduces the chances of having an incident. So by that feature, which is a feature that we are the only ones who have in the market, we put the control of safety also in the hands of the user. So if you see a driver who has a 4.6 and you feel uncomfortable about it, you can always skip.
So why can't we, your passengers, depend on you to only give us the drivers with a high rating? If a driver has a low rating, why don't you just
definitely filter them out after they've reached a particular rating. So once you reach a particular rating, definitely you're not getting right. Number one, as your rating drops, priority of getting right decreases. Because sometimes this rating might be misunderstandings, right? And you have the opportunity to improve on your rating. It's just a CGPA thing. So maybe on your first year, you're not serious about your studies and your rating dropped. By the second, third, fourth year, you have the opportunity to grow, right? So that's what the rating really does for drivers. But as you continue and the incident increases, you go down the pecking order, your priority of getting right reduces, and at some point you get yanked off. For example, we have ban features that ranges from 1 hour from very minute, like you get to a passenger and you cancel, can be banned for 1 hour, and 1 hour for a driver is like maybe 10,000 in his head because he has the opportunity to make up to 15 to 20,000, right? Up until like a ban armor where you can't come on our platform ever again, even if you change your car, change your phone, change everything. So our safety feature in terms of ensuring we filter out actually ranges from that wide range, depending on the protocols that you break. So, but then again, there's an opportunity for people who've had issues to, improve. So that's how it works.
Okay. Just this is not part of your safety thing. Condition of cars being used. How attentive are you guys to that? I know you have grades, comfortable, or just, I know you have like 3 grades or something like that.
We have different models.
Yes. So how attentive are you to that? Because I don't want to pay so much, does it mean I must sweat in a car?
right? Right, yes. So first off, our verification and onboarding process actually takes care of that, number one. Before you come on the platform, definitely you meet all the standards that are requested. However, as it goes on, there are photo verification processes. So you could just come on your app one day after you've done multiple rides and you're requested to actually show again who you are before you can take another ride. And it takes about, okay, you upload the needed things, and when it is verified, you can get back to working. So we do that continuously. So it's an ongoing, continuous concern. The second layer to it is also on the feedback part. And that is why drivers are very critical. So you find a lot of drivers at the end of a trip, they'll tell you, please rate me.
Yeah.
That's because they understand the importance of rating and how it affects their income. So if passengers use the feedback mechanisms that are available to actually share that, oh, this driver's car needs to be improved and all, they are properly addressed. So that's one of the things that we put in place. First, to ensure that the onboarding is proper, which we do. Second, from time to time verification. So you can just come on the app, you need to do a photo verification of yourself, of your vehicle, of your particulars, and so on. And the last is the feedback mechanism that ensures that the users have a say in what is on our platform, which is drop a feedback after a ride. Is the car great? Say it. Is it bad? Say it. And we use this feedback to do their ratings.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right. Just before we let you go now, this portal now, do you see maybe another, you said this is a rollout now, do you see a situation where perhaps you can get more interactive with the passengers, with your clients? Do we see that in the nearest future?
Absolutely. Okay, I would say presently, when use is not known, abuse is inevitable. We like to focus on why something is built. If we find out lessons learned and there are opportunities to improve or to use it for a different purpose, definitely we'll go on to it. But for a very strong feature like this, which is built off the back of transparency, support security, I believe it has multiple use cases. We just need to come up. And when we see it, it can easily be improved to serve other purposes. But presently, it is to close the gap of addressing safety issues and also involving the police to make it seamless, and also ensure that safety is actually involving everyone. It's a collective responsibility.
All right. Okay, thank you so much for that feature, the safety feature. In Drive, Dimeji Timothy, he is the country representative in Drive Nigeria. Thank you so much for coming on the program, but I'll have to plead with you to please hold on a bit as we go to the global space with Will Ibon. Will, we've taken part of your time. Sorry about that, but I know we
need to drive somewhere. You know, transportation is quite expensive these days. So I'm saying, I hope there's a reduction. Don't let In Drive
hear you say that.
No, it needs to reduce the prices, because taking a taxi is like traveling these days. Like, where am I going? Anyways, it's great to know that these are talks, and talks are still going in the US, China. So we'll just
second day of the talks.
Yeah, second day of the talks. And from President Trump's, remarks, there are good reports coming to him.
Hopefully it stays good.
It stays good. So let's just see how that is going on. Trade talks between the US and China resumed Tuesday in London following a recent call between President Trump and Xi. President Trump said he was getting good reports as top officials met to resolve trade tensions. Now, the US may ease export restrictions if China restores rare earth supplies. Now, talks aim to build on the Geneva Truce, which saw both countries temporarily lower tariffs. Now, let's head to the UK, where Britain's unemployment rate rose to 4.6% in April, the highest since 2021, signaling a slowdown in the job market. Official data also showed a drop in payrolled workers by 55,000 between March and April, while the annual wage growth, excluding bonuses, slowed to 5.2%. Rising wage costs, including the national living wage and insurance contributions, are weighing on hiring, with construction firms slashing jobs at the fastest pace in 5 years. The Bank of England, which recently cut rates to 4.25%, says it will take a gradual approach to future rate moves amid global uncertainties. Still in the UK, FTSE 100 rose above its March closing high on Tuesday, lifted by easing trade tensions and stronger economic data. The index gained 0.4% to close at 8,871.41 points, boosted by President Trump's pause on steep tariffs and renewed U.S. UK trade talks. Now, big gainers include Bay Systems and Freslino as business confidence in the UK hits a 9-month high. E-commerce giants Temu and Shein are turning to Europe and the UK for growth as US tariffs bite into their sales. In May, US spending on Temu dropped 36%, while Shein's fell 13%, prompting both firms to boost ad spending in Europe. But their pivot faces challenges. The EU plans to introduce a €2 customs fees on small packages, and regulators have filed complaints over the firm's business practices. Experts warn the new rules could curb their low-cost model. Despite hurdles, both companies saw sharp consumer spending growth in Europe, up 63% for Temu and 19% for Shein in the EU, with further gains in the UK. Now, basically, you see Shein, Temu, this is what we do. Like, Temu has come to Nigeria. But right now, they're facing Europe because of, Trump's tariffs. But I don't know if they're going to leave Nigeria because of our stiff government.
No, but our tariffs are still fair. Maximum of 14% on the continent.
Maximum.
But I think what we notice is everybody looking for alternatives to the US and China. We're seeing the US Apple go to India, for more of their manufacturing
leaving China,
and all of
but
that.
maybe these talks would change things, and maybe they'll reach an agreement, a compromise, or something that would help too.
And President Trump is giving us hope.
It's giving us
hope.
But with President Trump, markets are surging as a result of this easing of tensions and possibility of maybe something nice. Maybe
Hopefully.
in drive also jump in.
All right, I know you want to get it right, but don't worry, we'll do Business Incorporated. Talk to you later. All right, so that's it on the program. Thank you so much for being a part of this 55 minutes, about 55 minutes. I think we've done 56 today, but I hope it's, we'll do another one, a Business Incorporated, whatever we can't capture here, Business Incorporated at 1 p.m. I'll be back with Will Ebong, and so I'll talk to you then. I'm Ini John Mekwa.